Hey y'all, it's Rugawd, and you're tuned in to Inquiring Minds. Who am I, man? Okay, I was born in Tampa, and I grew up in Waimama, Riverview, Ruskin, if you know where that is. It's like the southern part of Hillsborough County. I had an interesting childhood. I grew up around a lot of Mexicans. I am myself Mexican. I'm very proud of that. I went to high school at Blake, so even though I didn't grow up in Tampa, that was my playground. Musically, let's see. I play bass. I'm a singer. I produce. I kind of play the piano. I actually started out on bass when I was like probably 11. My parents, they got me my first bass for Christmas. I had wanted to play the guitar because I saw my dad doing it, but then I had some second feelings about it because I didn't really want to do what my dad always did. I actually really wanted to play drums, but they just would not allow that. That was not something that I was allowed to do. It was just too loud. So I ended up asking for a bass, and lo and behold, they got me one. I never really took lessons. I just kind of would listen to my favorite metal bands at the time. I listened to a lot of metal as a kid, and classic rock, thanks to my dad. And I would just play along with that stuff. Then I did marching band. When I got to high school, I started playing tuba. And man, I loved the tuba. Oh my goodness. I actually thought I was going to be a professional tuba player all the way through college. That's what I went to school for. I had gone to school originally for tuba performance. And some interesting things that happened in college. Had some horrible falling outs with some professors, some colleagues, and I got kicked out of USF, so that sucks, But it ended up being a blessing in disguise, because what ended up happening is I was like, well, I can't do tuba anymore, so now let me try to play some jazz, because even in high school, even though I was pretty heavy into tuba, I'd still stayed in the jazz band and I kept learning, and I played in bands like pretty much all through high school, outside of school. So not just jazz bands. I was also doing like some punk bands, still played in some metal bands, and I did play in a jazz band outside of school as well. But I ended up coming back to it again in college because I got kicked out for tuba. So I enrolled in HCC and I finished some of my musical training there before I decided to just quit music altogether, and then I decided to do physics and math, and then I went back to USF for that. I didn't really do music for a little while after that. After like 2 years, I'd gotten married, and then some stuff happened there. It didn't work out, so life happens, and that kind of brought me back into music. So now here I am again in this scene, playing this instrument and producing for some of my best friends. So yeah, musically that's that. What made me choose bass as opposed to guitar? Well, I like the sound of the guitar, and the guitar was attractive to me because that's what my father played. But one thing that I had noticed was whenever we went to church, I would hear this thing just like thumping, and that did something to me. I don't know, anytime we'd go to any function, and there would be loud music, I would just really gravitate towards those bass tones. You know, that was something that always caught my ear. I didn't even really realize exactly what the role of the bass was. I just knew that I liked the sound. Especially in church, like our bass player at church was really obnoxious. He played so freaking loud that like you couldn't help but hear it. And so then hearing that made me feel like, yeah, this is what I want to do, you know? And then after that, I just kept falling more and more in love with the bass as I got to know all the different roles that it was capable of. And then now, you know, I've discovered that the bass is incredibly versatile. I mean, so many musicians play it in so many different ways. Like, I don't know how many heroes I have, from like, probably first person I can think of is Jaco Pastorius. That was really the dude that made me feel like, yeah, this is the instrument I want to play. Like after I heard that guy play and after I saw him do some stuff, that was it for me. I was like, yep, this does everything I need it to do. I want it, you know? And then after that, I just kept discovering more and more players who just like, they were just doing crazy shit I'd never heard anyone do. Victor Wooten was another one when I found out about that guy. Bella Fleck was another one I found out about that guy. And then most recently, Thundercat. Oh my god, I fell in love with Thundercat like, probably like 3-4 years ago, I want to say, is when I discovered this man's music. And actually, I didn't discover it. A friend of mine had put me onto Thundercat. They were just wondering what my music tastes were and told me to listen to Walkin'. That's off of his first album, that Golden Age of Apocalypse. And that song, oh my god, I drove that song into the ground. I listened to that like every day. I still listen to it a lot, even though I completely destroyed it. I still listen to it a lot. It's one of my favorites. Thundercat is definitely an inspiration. But yeah, I've always been attracted to bass instruments, even tuba. You know, I don't know what it is. Deep tones, they just speak to me. The most important piece of a band. Alright. I think it depends on the type of music, but by and large, I think the most important part of a band is the rhythm section. The rhythm section has to be absolutely solid. And again, that's not like, I'm not saying that this is the case for every single band that ever lived or ever existed, but to me, it's just that rhythm section really has to be there. And when I say that the rhythm section has to be there, I mean the drummer, the bassist, and whoever is doing like rhythm chords, so whether it be the pianist or a guitarist, they all have to be right there. Like, every note that they play together has to be like perfectly in sync. I think that really makes the difference between a great band and a good band. Bands who do that well, especially if it's like some dance music, they can really get people moving if they groove really, really well. Yeah, that's the most important thing to me. Is bass guitar the wave of the future? Perhaps, you know, it certainly seems so. I mean, you're starting to see guys like, you know, Thundercat get tons of recognition for playing the instrument as virtuosically as they do. But I mean, people have always played the bass that virtuosically. Like, Jaco Pastorius, if you don't know who that is, check that man out. Like, that's a seriously amazingly talented bassist. There's so many other good ones. Scott LaFaro, he used to play for Bill Evans. Check that guy out. He's monster of a bass player. Victor Wooten, I'm sure tons of people know who that is. You know, but is it the wave of the future? I don't know. I think people are always gonna play the bass. You know, people are always gonna play guitar, and people are always gonna play keyboards and drums. I guess maybe in like mainstream media, whenever you look at like the stereotypical image of who is the star in a band, it's usually like the guitarist, you know. But I don't know. I think bass gets plenty of recognition, you know. as for whether it's the way of the future, I can't say, man. Only time will tell. Well, I'm gonna be working on quite a few things this year. First, I'm releasing a project at some point this year I've been working on since last year, and I was supposed to drop it in December, but it's not ready. So look out for that this year for sure. I'm not exactly sure when, but I'm having a little project come out. I'm always working on some stuff with a very close friend of mine named Mason Monroe. He's another local rapper. He's really good. I enjoy working with him, and we may or may not have some stuff coming up this year too. And then I'm probably most excited right now about a project that I'm working on with another artist named Indio, and we're working on this little EP together. And oh man, it's such a nice project. Like, we just kind of been making songs as we can, and we didn't even know we would have enough material for a project, but we have more than enough, and we're always making more stuff. So watch out for that. That's something that I'm very excited about. My social medias. Okay, so you can follow me on IG at Rugawd Music. It's music with a K, not a C. And then same thing for Twitter, Rugawd Music.